In 2021, Netflix released the show Arcane, and I truly believe that this was one of the best decisions Netflix could have made. So I love that today I get the chance to gush about the series and to tell you all about why this was a genius move. Let me preface this with the fact that this video will include spoilers, at least to the extent that a show from over a year ago and with an extensive game lore that has existed for ages can be spoiled. But anyways, for all those who stumbled on this not knowing anything about Arcane or League of Legends, let me introduce you to this absolute masterwork of animation. Welcome to Rebel Culture. If you enjoy content like this, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel. And without further ado, let's talk about Arcane. The story of Arcane follows the two sisters, Vi and Jinx, initially called Powder, who grow up in Zaun, a poor city just opposite of the grand and thriving Piltover. Growing up in this seedy underbelly plagued with crime, Vi and Powder are exposed to violence from a very young age, seeing their parents killed as Piltover forces push back against a Zaun rebellion. But they're also exposed to violence from within their own world. Zaun is filled with castouts and criminals, making it a dangerous place for two little girls. So no wonder each of them found a way to fight. While Vi, the older of the two sisters, is known for her physical combat, both in the series and in the game, Jinx is struggling to keep up with her big sister. In the game, we see her having mastered the art of pyrotechnics, but in the series, she's still very much learning the craft, meaning she often poses a threat, either because her concoctions don't detonate and therefore leave her vulnerable, or because they detonate at the wrong time. Throughout the story, this rift between the sisters only grows as Powder feels useless and powerless, and therefore is increasingly more eager to prove her worth. This comes to a climax as the adoptive dad of Vi and Powder, Vander, is fighting the Lord of the Underground, Silco. As Vi is joining the fight, Powder is a desperate spectator, eager to play her role in the fight. As she sees her big sister losing, she wants to help and detonates 3 magical crystals. In the process, she accidentally kills 2 of her brothers. In her grief, Vi hits Powder, calling her a Jinx, a name that she had always protected Powder from. This is when the story of the sisters takes a dark turn. Vi later returns looking for Powder to apologize, but she was incarcerated instead. Feeling betrayed and abandoned by her sister, Powder sought refuge with Silco, shedding her old personality and becoming Jinx, the character we know from League of Legends. Years later, the sisters reunite, but Jinx cannot get over her distrust of Vi after having been betrayed all these years ago, especially as Vi is in the company of Caitlyn, the exact representation of everything the citizens of Zaun hate about Piltover and its people. Now, this is just one plotline of the story, but it is the one that ties everything together. Apart from Vi and Jinx, there are quite a few other characters from League of Legends, so let me introduce them real quick and how they add to the story. For one, there is Echo, childhood friend of Vi and Jinx. Once he is older, he clearly stands on the side of Vi, as he detests Silco, who by then is essentially Jinx's surrogate father. Next, let's talk about Caitlyn, who we already mentioned earlier. She comes from a well-off family from Piltover, and is a rookie enforcer, so you can understand Jinx's distrust as enforcers killed her and Vi's parents. Caitlyn, however, is kind and a badass, so in return, you can also understand why her and Vi get along so well. Plus, Caitlyn freed Vi from prison, so that'll create quite a bond. Caitlyn was also childhood friends with Jace, another important character. The stolen crystals that Powder used and accidentally blew up her brothers with were stolen from Chase. As a child, he was saved by arcane magic, and now believes it to be the key for the future prosperity of Piltover. However, the academy where he studies does not permit such experiments, expelling Chase, driving him into the arms of Victor and indirectly Heimerdinger, 2 more League of Legends characters. In the series, Victor is the assistant of Heimerdinger. Seeing the potential within Jace's research, he is aiding him in secret. Together, they create Hextech, an arcane technology, which over the years, as Vi is in prison and Jinx is under the spell of Silco, help Piltover prosper. This furthers the plot of antagonism and violence between these 2 cities, as well as their citizens. These 2 stories, the one taking place in Piltover and the one taking place in Zaun, are largely separate until the end of the show, except for the constant antagonism between the 2 cities, and one more character, which is key for the survival of a character of either side of the river: Singed. Singed is an alchemist and a doctor who created a drug called Shimmer, which is rampaging through the underworld. But through a modified version of this, Singed also saved Victor as a child, and later also saved Jinx, keeping 2 core characters alive and creating a bridge between the 2 worlds. Okay, so that is all for the backstory. I left out some important parts regarding Hextech and the politics at play, etc. But there's simply so much more to get through. If you enjoyed the video, remember to like and subscribe. So, let's talk about why this show is so good. I want to do this from 2 perspectives. First, the perspective of someone who doesn't have a clue about League of Legends, and the second one from the perspective of a longtime fan. For those who have no interest in the game, the series is still perfectly accessible. You do not need to know the characters or their skills in the game in order to follow the story. They introduce you to the characters from the very beginning, letting you get to know them entirely independently from the game. No previous knowledge is expected or needed to delve into this wonderful story. Everyone understands sibling rivalry, the need to carve out your own way, as well as the fact that what your family says to you hits entirely differently. So when someone you love and trust and who has protected you their entire lives all of a sudden turns on you, you can understand how Powder may break and turn into Jinx, especially as she was never shown as the most stable person to begin with. None of that really has anything to do with the game or its lore, it's just basic human empathy. This is where the series really hits home. It pulls you in through a compelling story that plugs at your heartstrings, while also creating a wonderful imaginary world. And again, the way the world is built and introduced, the show starts with the assumption of 0 knowledge on the part of the viewer. You don't need to know Hextech. You're introduced to it the same way as any imaginary world introduces its magic to you, bit by bit ramping up to more fantastical elements of magic. Beyond this, the animation is pure masterpiece. It is special and has its very own style, making it incomparable to anything I've seen before. The studio used a mixture between 2D and 3D animation, creating this mixed media effect that is so unique, while also making use of keyframe animation done completely by hand. But more than just the mastery of the animation, the Studio Fortiche production itself has a long history with League of Legends. The year-long affiliation means the studio really knows the aesthetic of League and the feeling, having themselves been involved in the visual aspects of characters and their trailers, including the debuts of Echo and Jinx, both characters that appear in the show. So, overall, we have first, a compelling storyline that requires no prior knowledge of the characters. Second, a fascinating world and a magic system that is gradually introduced to the viewer. Third, masterful animation. And fourth, a studio that is very much attached to these characters, since they have been responsible for them from day one. All these aspects create a show that is inviting and compelling, even to those that know nothing about League of Legends. But you don't make a show about League characters without having your core audience in mind, namely those people who play and love the game. Within this group of gamers, you have those which already know every aspect of the lore, and those that play the game but are mainly ignorant of the lore at large. And quite frankly, it isn't that easy to know the lore of the entire world of League and the individual characters at play. The stories are so interwoven and span across many years that it's hard to keep track of it. So as a League of Legends player myself, who never could quite get my mind around the lore, I love the fact that we now get an easy to digest version of it, even if it only includes a fraction of the characters at first. League of Legends has always played with various media styles to let their characters jump out of the Summoner's Rift. For one, you have the classical lore. Each champion has a biography that you can read up on, to understand their backstories, their fundamental drive for fighting, who their allies are, and who their enemies are. And while in the beginning, back in 2009, it may have been possible to read and know all of the backstories, since there were only 40 champions to begin with, this is far less likely to be the case now with 161 champions. So League of Legends always found ways to bring a select few characters closer by making trailers and allowing these characters to shine. They have champion spotlights to introduce these characters in more detail and get people excited to try out these characters in the game. And their trailers, which are my absolute favorite. Being late to League of Legends as I am to most things, there were already quite a few trailers out and I was obsessed. But apart from the videos, they have also delved in the realm of music. With their long-standing association to Imagine Dragons, who of course wrote the song for the series as well, this is really honed in. This partnership is another masterpiece on the part of Riot Games, linking the voice and their music style to League of Legends. I can't hear the song Enemy without thinking of Vi and Jinx. The tension, the emotion, the hope, the power, the song encompasses so well what the series wants to tell, as well as the emotions of the game itself. You battle 5v5, you try to figure out your enemy's strengths and weaknesses, building up tension, heightening your emotions as you kill or get killed. The game, the show, and the song are all ways to convey this wide array of feelings and wonderfully combine them. While experiencing it in different ways, the show allows you to very much experience similar emotions as the gameplay itself, meaning that whether you are a player, a spectator, or both, you get your fill in excitement and heart-wrenching moments. I'm sure there are about 1 million more great things about the series that I just haven't had the time to delve into today. Why not let me know in the comments what you loved most about the show? Thank you so much for watching Rebel Culture. We love talking about everything from games to movies to pop culture, so I'm sure we have plenty more content here that you may like. Why not check out some more of the videos right now? See you soon here on Rebel Culture.